Hey everybody, welcome back to Football Talk with Vinny. In today's video, we're going to go over Week 8 in the Power Rankings. So with the Monday night game just wrapping up, felt it's a good idea to go over the Power Rankings just to get them out as quickly as possible. So with that, let's get right into it. The 32nd team is going to be the Lions. This was a swap of last week where I had the Texans. Again, you just got really blown out by a bad Eagles team. So I felt like they deserved to be in the last place after that week's game. Right behind them though, at 31 is going to be the Texans. They got blown out as well. They were down, I believe it was 28-0 at one point. They were able to score a couple of touchdowns late to make it look like it was only a 16-point game, but they got absolutely crushed as well. Number 30, we're going to go at Jacksonville. You played a team with the backup quarterback in Seattle, and they blew you out. So obviously I had to drop them a couple spots as well. Number 29 stays the same. It's going to be Miami Dolphins. Not much to say there. You played a good Buffalo team. You made it close in the first half, but they were able to pull away in the second. Number 28, I have the Jets moving up 3 spots. Of course, this is because of the win against the Cincinnati Bengals. At 27, we're going to have the Washington football team. Not really a change there from them from last week. Again, kind of seems like every week they're giving up 20-plus points. That defense is not what they thought it was going to be when the season started, and they're in for a really long year. And then the next team, that 26, is going to be the Chicago Bears. They dropped 6 spots in my personal power rankings, even though they played a semi-close game with the Niners. I just have them dropping a lot because A, I don't believe the Niners are that great of a team, and they did lose by 10, and plus a lot of the teams that were ranked just barely below them last week, a lot of those teams actually got victories, so that's why I decided to move them up, and Chicago specifically down a lot. One of those teams barely is Denver. I actually had Denver moving down 1 spot, but still ahead of Chicago. Obviously, you got a victory. But again, it wasn't really against a good team in Washington. That seems like they're just, season has kind of gone off the rails. Plus, with the news of trading Von Miller, you're absolutely not really trying to make the playoffs at this point when you trade away one of your better defensive players. And it looks like after that 3-0 start, which seems like forever ago, they're in for a long year. At number 24, I'm going to have the Seattle Seahawks, have them moving up just 1 spot. You did beat a very bad Jacksonville team, but I believe that Russell Wilson should be returning. I believe it's week 9, so it should be this week. If not, maybe next week. At 23 is the Giants. They just stayed in the same spot. They played a very close game against the Kansas City Chiefs team, so obviously that bodes well for them. But unfortunately, if you watch the game, not only did they lose, but they lost a couple of receivers again. So it seems like this team can never get healthy, especially on the offensive side of the ball, which is unfortunate because you're not able to really see how good this offense can be, and also too how Daniel Jones how good he can actually be, considering he has never had a full complement of weapons around him. At 22, we're going to move the Eagles up 4 spots. Again, they had a blowout victory. At number 21, moving down 2 spots, going to have the Atlanta Falcons here. Losing to the Carolina Panthers is not great. Again, Carolina has not been playing particularly well. And if you're Atlanta, you were riding, I believe it was a 2-game win streak after a kind of slow start to the season, and you were able to get yourself back into a wild card spot race. But with that loss, obviously, not only does it put you under Carolina in terms of the win column and now head-to-head, but there's a bunch of teams that are ahead of them in terms of trying to get seeding for even just getting into the wild card spot. At number 20, moving up just 2 spots, I have the 49ers. Again, even though you beat the Bears, I don't really have the Bears as a good team. At number 19, moving down 2 spots, I'm going to have the Indianapolis Colts. Not much to be said there. You lost a very close game in overtime to Tennessee, but even with losing that game, even though Derrick Henry is going to be out for a extended period of time, it's going to be very tough to win the division now, and with each loss, it makes it tougher to get into the wild card race. Moving down 3 spots as well as the Minnesota Vikings. Again, you lost to a team with their backup quarterback who really relies on their quarterback to keep them in ball games. Dallas is not a secret. They're an offensive team, so to play without your starting quarterback, if you're Minnesota, that is a game you have to win. Moving down 3 spots as well, even though they won just now, is the Kansas City Chiefs. I have them ranked at 17. Again, this was a game that I think if the Giants receivers didn't get hurt, the Giants might have been able to win this ball game, which is not a good sign for Kansas City. The offense turned it over again another 2 times, had a 3rd turnover that they got lucky that they recovered the ball when Patrick Mahomes fumbled when they had a chance to kick the field goal to take the 3-point lead. If they don't recover that, maybe the Giants in a tie ball game, they go down and score, and then the Kansas City Chiefs lose. Next at 16, I'm going to have Carolina moving up 5 spots. The teams that were ranked above them last week, they either all lost, or with obviously Carolina beating Atlanta, you have to rank them above the Falcons as well. But on a side note, I'm obviously not happy with the way Sam Darnold's playing, right? I was one of the supporters of Sam Darnold. He looked great the first 3 weeks, Even though they won this week, he did not look good again. Obviously, not having Christian McCaffrey hurts the entire offense, but if you're Sam Darnold, you're actually just not playing well. At number 15, moving up 3 spots, I'm going to have the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, got a huge win at Cleveland. Number 14, I have the New England Patriots moving up just 2 spots. He did beat a very good San Diego Chargers team, so obviously going to have to move them up. Didn't want to move them up too much. Again, if you've seen a couple of these videos before, I don't really try to overreact to a specific win or loss. I try to go based on how the team is playing. And again, it was a very big win. But, if you're New England, this just brings you to 4-4. So at this point, halfway-ish through the season, you got as many wins as losses. So at this point, you're kind of on pace to probably slightly miss the playoffs. So that's not where you want to be if you're New England. You want to make the playoffs. But again, being 4-4 after starting off the season with a couple of those bad losses, you'll take it if you're New England, because now hopefully as your schedule gets a little softer, maybe you can get some victories and then start to actually have, 8, 9, 10 victories to get into the playoffs. 13, we're going to have the Chargers. Although they just lost to New England, I am going to still rank the Chargers ranked above them. But again, it's very close. I have them ranked 14 and 13. So again, I think they're very close. Obviously, the Chargers are a much better offensive team. But with the Chargers, though, they now lost 2 straight games after starting the season 4-1. So they're now 4-3. So obviously, that's not what you wanted to see after that great start. And also, Justin Herbert has not been as good as he was in the first few weeks of the season in the last 2. So he struggled a bit. Obviously, if you're the Chargers fan or just the Chargers staff in general, you want to see him get back to playing the way he was playing in the first 4 or 5 weeks, and hopefully he does that this next coming week. They are built on the offensive side, so if he doesn't go out there and put up 25+ points, it's going to be tough for the Chargers to win most ball games, because defensively, they have decent players, but they're not a top-notch defense. Number 12, I'm going to have Cleveland. I'm not going to have them moving any spots. Again, you lost a close game to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I've ranked like 16. Again, try not to overreact to any particular win or loss here. Cleveland is still a very talented team. Obviously, Baker is dealing with an injury. It's just a tough loss. But if you're Cleveland, you still are a talented team. You're sitting at 4-4. At 4-4, it's not really where you want to be, but at least you're not so far behind in the standings that you can't make up the ground towards the second half of the season and get into the playoffs. At 11, we're going to go with the Raiders, who didn't play, just dropping in 1 spot. And again, the only reason for that is maybe a couple teams that I thought were ranked below them had big victories, so I wanted to move those teams up. But if you're the Raiders, you've had a great start to the season, but this is now 3 years in a row you've started the season. I think it's 5-2. I think all 3 years at this point. So we know that Oakland, in the last 2 years specifically, has had kind of bad second halves that have made them not make the playoffs. So if you're Las Vegas, you don't want that to happen in a 3rd consecutive year. So now getting into the top 10, we'll start with the number 10 team I have is the Cincinnati Bengals, obviously with a very big loss to the New York Jets. This was a chance to get another victory against a very bad football team. A, keep pace with the top teams in the AFC, and also B, try to give yourself some breathing room for that division. Because we know that Baltimore is going to win a lot of football games this season. So after getting a huge win against them, you needed to maybe win these games against these bad teams. This way, when you rematch them, if they were to beat you, you don't have to worry about that maybe deciding who wins the division and who doesn't. Still a good team, but again, after losing that week, we've seen a lot of teams so far this season. They have a very big win against a good team, and then they come back the next week and they just lose to a team that we didn't think they were going to lose to. Number 9, we're going to have the New Orleans Saints. Again, this may be the team I was the most wrong about. I thought they would be kind of a 500 team. I thought the offense would struggle, and I did not think that the defense would be playing as well as it's playing. Again, I think right now it's the number 2 or 3 ranked defense in terms of points allowed per game. So they're absolutely dominating most teams, and even up against a very good Bucs offense, they held them in check. They got 3 turnovers in that ball game. They really shut out the Bucs in the first half to 3 points. So it took the Bucs a miraculous second half to have to score in almost every possession just to get back in the ball game. With Jameis, obviously he tore his ACL and had some MCL damage, so he's going to be out for the year. The only good news with that is, obviously not good news to lose your quarterback, is you don't really win with Jameis Winston anyways. So at this point, you could put in a guy like Taysom Hill or even Trevor Siemian, who started that game after Jameis went down. You can replace him with one of those guys, and you shouldn't be losing too much, because again, Jameis hasn't really thrown for many yards in most of these ball games. He's just kind of giving he's kind of taking what the defense gives him and just making the plays that are there to be made. So a lot of quarterbacks can do that. When you have a great defense that's not going to give up many points, you're able to kind of just plug and play a quarterback and still be successful. I think the big news is going to be whoever is the quarterback, they're going to have to make sure that they do not turn the ball over, because that will make a great defense look average because of the bad field position. Next, we'll go with the number 8 team as the Baltimore Ravens. They got moved up one spot because of the bye. And to me, obviously, it was really just because a couple of those teams that were ranked ahead lost, like a Cincinnati, so I wanted to put them below them. Obviously, the defense has to be more consistent and not play one good game against the Chargers and then have a bad game against Cincinnati. So if we can see that defense play more consistently, you know, Baltimore can move up the rankings, but we'll see next week. If their defense comes out and gives up another close to 30 points, even if they win the game, it's still not going to be a good sign, because you can't be winning ball games against playoff teams when you're going to give up 30 plus points. Number 7, I'm going to have Tennessee here. Even though they got a big win, I'm going to drop them down one spot. And obviously, you know, the reason behind it is Derrick Henry is out with a broken foot for 6 to 10 weeks. Now, obviously, this hurts my pick for taking the Titans to come out of the AFC. The good news, though, is if he can get closer to that 6-week mark and come back, you're talking about him coming back the last 2 to 3 weeks in the regular season and then come playoff time, which I think might be a good thing if you're talking about Derrick Henry specifically, because the workload they ask him to do is so much in comparison to any other player in the league that you might have worn him down to come postseason time. Now, albeit he's one of the biggest backs in the game, it's tough to wear him down. He actually does that to opponents. But still, with the amount of carries he already has in the last 2 years and the amount of carries he's gotten so far, this could be a good thing. You know, you're talking if he can come back week 15, 16 and play those last 2-3 games, right, get himself right for the postseason, he'll be as fresh as he's ever been come postseason time, and you can really run him then. I think because you were able to escape Indianapolis with a big victory, the division maybe is not sealed completely, but if you're Tennessee, as long as you can beat the bad teams remaining on your schedule, you should be able to win enough games to win that division. Number 6, we're gonna have the Bucks dropping 3 spots. For this reason, the reason why I dropped them is pretty simple. You know, they keep winning against the bad teams they play, which, you know, that's what you're supposed to do if you're a good team. But now this is another good quality team they played and they lost, right? The last time they really played a good quality team was the Rams, and they got blown out. You know, if you look at the Bucs schedule, you look at the teams they play that actually are good teams, you have Dallas, New England, New Orleans, and the Rams. You had a very close game again with Dallas. You lost to the Rams. You had a very close game with the New England Patriots, and now you lost to New Orleans. So at this point, I think as the Bucs start to play the better teams in their schedule, I think every time they play a team with a winning record, that's going to be a big game for them, because at this point, it's like, are you just beating up on the bad teams, or are you actually as good as your point differential and your record says that you are? Number 5, finally cracking the top 5 of my personal power rankings, is going to be my Dallas Cowboys. Again, getting a victory like that at Minnesota with a backup quarterback is a very big win. You're obviously able to gain even more ground on your division, so you're almost now guaranteeing that this division is pretty much over halfway through the season. And me as a Cowboys fan personally, I was very impressed with the way the defense played. Again, you were able to hold a very explosive Minnesota offense to only 16 points, which again, Dallas was winning all these games offensively, although Trevon Diggs had played very well. The defense in general had not played well. We were giving up a lot of points, and we were just getting some timely turnovers, which was helping us win some of these ball games, but it's hard to count on the turnovers every single week. So I was very impressed with the way the defense played, because obviously in this game, if they had allowed Minnesota to score anywhere close to that 30-point mark, this would have been a rout. And if Dallas's defense can continue to play better and continue to play like they played this week against Minnesota, they're going to be a very dangerous team, because we know when Dak comes back, they already have a top 3 offense for sure. Number 4, drop it down 2 spots. I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals. Obviously, they lost the game. I'm not really dropping them too many spots for losing. This is more the injury to J.J. Watt, and obviously the team they lost to has to now go above them. So that's why they had to drop. I still think the Cardinals are going to be a very good team. Obviously, they're really more built on the offensive side, so as long as you don't lose any of the offensive players, that's great. But I do think that losing J.J. Watt is a very big loss. Again, he not only is a good player himself, but he draws a lot of attention away from Chandler Jones. Now, without having J.J. Watt, you're probably going to be able to double team Chandler Jones, and you're going to have another pass rusher on that front seven be able to get there on a one-on-one block. And it's just going to have to be seen if someone on that Cardinals D-line can do it consistently. But again, not going to drop them too much. You lost to a very good football team. One of those teams is number 3 in the Green Bay Packers. Again, they just beat them, so it's hard to put them below. And I know the game came down to that last play in the end zone, but the Packers had chances to really put the game away. Give Arizona credit for not allowing the Packers to be able to put them away. But if you're Green Bay and you were to rematch them in the playoffs per se, I think if you're Green Bay, you feel confident that you can go in there and maybe try to make it a 2 or 3 score game next time you play them. So this way you don't have to worry about it coming down to one play. Plus the fact that you did all that with your best offensive weapon being out in Davante Adams. Number 2, we're going to go with the Rams. Just another blowout game. Again, don't want to get too much into it. You beat a very bad team in Houston, but you did what you're supposed to do. Obviously, I think this is more of the trade for me, right? They were obviously able to deal a trade to get Von Miller, so I think this is going to help their defense tremendously. Like we talked about 2 spots ago with the Arizona Cardinals losing J.J. Watt, because it gives them another pass rusher to take attention off of Chandler Jones. Having a guy like Von Miller is going to help Aaron Donald significantly, because I think even still, if you're a team, you're going to go into the game doubling Aaron Donald because he's just such a dominant force. But that means if you are Von Miller, this is the first time in your professional career you're not going to be double teamed the entire game. You may see a second half out of Von Miller that could be absolutely ridiculous, because he's not going to be double teamed, because you literally can't, because Aaron Donald is still the best defensive player on the planet, so you have to double team him. So if you're Von Miller, you're going to an ideal situation on a very good roster. I was really hesitant. I wanted to make the Los Angeles Rams a number 1 team, but I'm not going to for this week specifically. This week we're still going to give it to the Buffalo Bills. But again, I think it's really a toss-up between those 2 teams in terms of talent level. I think both have elite quarterback play right now. Both have elite weapons. Both of them obviously have very good defenses. So both of them can beat you in every way you want to win a football game. I'm just going to leave Buffalo at the top. But again, as the Rams maybe start to play some better teams, if they can beat some of those good teams, and again, we'll see Buffalo, they're going to have to play some good teams over the next couple weeks. If they struggle a little bit like they did against Miami in that first half with some of these better teams, that may be cause of concern, and it may make me kind of drop them down a little bit. But again, at this point, when you're talking about the number 1 and number 2 team, you're kind of splitting hairs. But again, I'm going to have Buffalo, for this week at least, still ranked number 1. Again, you still have a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. It's hard to not rank them number 1. I don't really care about the record. I don't care that they're not 7-1 or 8-0. If you were going to play a team, and it doesn't matter what fan you are of any team, even if you're a fan of the Rams, if you were going to ask a fan of the Rams, what team do you think is the scariest team to play? I think everyone would say Buffalo. You just don't want to play them. They can win on offense, they can win on defense. In my opinion, their running game is pretty bad. If you take away the rushing yards from Josh Allen and you just look at what their running backs produce, they would probably be a bottom 5 rush offense. Now, obviously, you don't take that away, just like you don't take away Lamar's rushing ability, but I think that Josh Allen is such a good passer that you're almost kind of scared every time he takes off. Yes, he's a big dude, so he's more durable than maybe a smaller dude, but if Josh Allen goes down, your season goes down the drain. But again, it's kind of the whole give and take. You want to make sure that Josh Allen is able to play his game, and running is part of his game with how big he is and agile he is as well. So that's going to be it for the power rankings. Like I said, I wanted to get it out as quickly as possible, considering that the Monday night game just ended. Let me know what your thoughts are. What would you change? What would you not change? What did you like about it? But that's going to do it for the video. I look forward to next week and updating you all guys on those power rankings as well. Have a good one. Bye.